And we are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Winchop, who just revealed the Electrek Car of the Year. Big news today.
Exciting.
Yes.
Surprising. Shocking.
Yeah, I said it to you, but as soon as it pop up on Twitter, I look to see the comments. The very first comment I see, it's the
Yeah. Oh, nice. You got the beeper.
Yeah, I got a little censorship thing going on.
Get your finger. Keep your finger on that.
All right. Without any further ado, what is the Electrek vehicle of the year?
So this year we decided that, taking into consideration we're in the middle of an economic downturn, maybe a recession. I don't know. Value became kind of the primary mover. Everybody was jacking up prices this year as well. Tesla, just like every month, seemed to be raising the prices. Ford made their Mustang more expensive. The government took away a lot of the federal tax credits, but the one outlier was the GM Chevy Bolt, which GM dropped by $6,000, which is pretty impressive. And that was kind of related to the fires issue that we talked about, a lot back when that was happening. But the bottom line is you get a really good car, and I'm a Chevy Bolt driver from 2017 to 2020, and I just got a new one yesterday, and I love it. And when I've driven just about every EV. I've driven Porsche Taycans, Mercedes EQS, and obviously it's not as great as those cars, but like in a lot of ways, I would rather have a Bolt. It's just easier to get into and out of. It's easier to drive. You don't have to worry about people hitting it. It's smaller footprint, so you don't have to. Parking spots are easy. There's lots of room in the garage. So there's just so many bonus pieces of owning a Bolt. And also, I think we also, as I want to say Americans, but just as drivers, we're not thinking about the big picture quite as much. And when we're driving around, I'm driving around in a Ford F-150, I'm feeling like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm using 2 or 3 times as much electricity as I need to be using if I was driving a Bolt. I can't see like around me because I'm so high up in the air, and I'm such a big vehicle. So pedestrians and bicyclists are in danger. So there's all these like little factors that kind of play in, and the Bolt kind of, it's kind of alone in its form factor. I mean, you could say like the Mini or the BMW i3 are kind of there, but they have like half the range, not really usable range. So it's kind of alone in the hatchback area. So taking all those things together with the price that I think it's like $15,000 less than the next comparable vehicle. You could say like, a base model ID4 would be kind of in the same ballpark as the Bolt, but it's quite a bit more expensive. I guess the Mustang Mach-E is kind of close to a Bolt EUV a little bit with the only the rear wheel drive. But there's just nothing close to it. And, obviously the Leaf with the CHAdeMO, nobody's going to want that. So
It's about the same price, but it's just not comparable in terms of the value. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean the Leaf that is near the Bolt price is a 40 kilowatt hour Leaf with a CHAdeMO charger, like way slower. Like I don't know who would buy a Bolt at this point. Like I don't know who would buy a Nissan Leaf at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Nissan shut themselves in the foot a long time ago. But now we're getting into the downside. So you just listed all the positives of the Bolt, which I all agree with. You're all right about. And value. I mean, no one can argue with it. Like even with all the downside that I can mention, the value is still there. But there are some downside. The biggest one, I mean, you led with it in your post on the downside part of it. It is the charging. Like this for a vehicle in 2022. To have 54 kilowatt of DC fast charging capacity, it's kind of unacceptable. But that's how much, like that's how crazy the market is. Really, that
right.
like you can create like you can go cheap enough that even if you have like a completely unacceptable charge rate for 2022, you can still have like the best value car in the EV market in the US. So congrats on
So
Chevy for making that happen.
I will say, so just talking about that a little bit, a few things. I totally agree.
Mm,
Like it's totally unacceptable. Even if like the regen can go up to 70 kilowatts. So
mm,
the system can
mm,
handle 70, like just throw that in there at least.
mm,
Like throw me a bone. Apparently it's like the wires. They just had to
mm.
replace the wires. They just didn't want to do that or something. Anyway, things to think about. The Bolt is one of the most efficient. I think it's like the second to the Tesla Model 3 as the most efficient cars out there. So
I
every
mean, the
kilowatt you
Ionic and company are not, they're not Ionic
Oh
5 and
yeah,
all that.
so the Ionic 5 is not, but the old Ionic,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
just
No,
that
some, yeah,
one is. But yeah, have a look.
yeah.
They're all kind of in that range. So anyway, it's one of the more efficient cars. So and I think it's 28 kilowatt hours to get 100 miles, which is the same as a Tesla Model Y. Although we know that Teslas don't quite do the range that they say they're going to do. Usually. So the thing is though, like if you're talking about versus a Ford F-150 and you're getting half the mileage or even less per kilowatt, then you're kind of charging at the equivalent of over 100 kilowatts in a Bolt if you're talking about just a miles basis. So it's not quite as slow as you think because of the efficiency. And then on top of that, it is slow, but theoretically you wake up every morning with 260 miles. Maybe there's a 7 day, 10 days a year where you're driving more than 260 miles. So you're going to add a couple, 15, 30 minutes onto each of those stops that you would, versus a Ionic or any
The
other
Konas are, sorry to interrupt you, but the Konas are also more efficient.
more efficient.
In term of the long range EV, you're right. It's the long range EV. It's the Model 3, Model Y, the Lucid. Also, even though it's a long range EV,
Mhm.
it's just not the same price point. Then you have a bunch of like 100 miles EVs that are more efficient. But if you want like 200 plus miles EVs, yeah, it goes Model 3, Model Y, Kona, and then the Bolt EV. Right?
Yeah, and they're all in the same general,
Yeah,
area.
yeah. It's not. It's 120.
Yeah,
120 mpg.
right. So there's some other downsides. The look of it is I would say at most polarizing, and I said I think I'm the only one at Electrek who really likes the look of the Bolt. It's kind of a hot hatch in my book, and like frankly, there's a lot of CUV vehicles out there. It's kind of nice to refreshing to not have a CUV.
Yeah, my take
Although
on the design has always been that like I'm not mad at the exterior with the update with the front end too. It's better. I think the when was the update? Like
2021,
2021.
2022.
Yeah, so that was a good update. My point was always the interior is not great looking. It's also a little bit cheap looking, especially when it was a $35,000 car.
Yep.
So now as a $25,000 car, I'm not mad at it. Like this is a decent interior for a car in the 20s.
Yeah. And yeah, you have always said that, and
Mm,
now it's finally in the 20s.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, and here's the weird thing: the Bolt EUV actually has less cargo space
yeah. I
than
never
the
got
EV.
that.
Yeah, I don't like. I kind of just want to fill it up with balloons and see what the heck's going on because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been a great car for me. Like I love zipping around. It's great for my kids. I mean, like to be honest with you, like we do two things. One, we go to Vermont, and that's gonna be in the Model Y, and then I'm also an Uber driver for my kids,
Mm,
and that's pretty much like my day, my life.
mhm,
So neither of those things require me to fast charge too often. Although I do plan to take the Bolt up to Vermont at least
mhm.
once. So
Give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, I completely understand. Like, that's why I didn't fight you too much. Like, let's be clear. Seth had the final say on what car of the year is going to be the
I was
electric
open
car of the
to I was
year.
open to arguments.
Yeah, and I didn't fight you much, if not at all, on because I do understand where you come from. Because one of the biggest thing, as you know, I'm sure you will agree with me, as the like electric car guy within your friend group. Like, I mean, not. I mean, we've been. I was thinking about it the other day. We've been at this for a long time. I mean, it's going to be my 8th year at Electrek next year coming
Oh,
up. So it's
congrats.
been a long time. So I've been like an electric car guy so long that now I've pretty much converted all my friends. Like they all have an electric car or want one for their next one. But for the longest time, the biggest argument against it that I did, the biggest pushback is like, you need to be rich to have an electric car. Like there's no cheap electric car and everything. And they've been right for the most part, unless you want to make some big compromises. And like you just explained that, basically the only compromise that you make with this car is like, yes, if you're it's going to be a bigger compromise if you're someone who does a lot of long distance driving. But if you have a more normal case, which is the vast majority of people, you make the compromise that the once or twice or 3-4 times a year, whatever it is, like the handful of times a year that you do make long distance travel, it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome. So this is a very small compromise for all the benefits you get from driving electric, including the financial benefit, which is even greater for the Bolt EV because of its low cost of purchase, on top of all EVs low cost of operation. So yeah, I mean, this is they have a winner at that price for sure. The only thing that's like, I see some people in the comments already mentioning it, is like, are they making any money on this? Like that? That's the big question. Because even at $35,000, there was a lot of questioning whether they make money on it, and now at 25, it's even more.
I don't know. I mean, they said they're ramping up to 70,000 or something
Yeah,
next year.
that's the thing where I was like, all right, we can make it. It's not like it's a compliance car or anything like that. Even though it's a low volume vehicle at 30,000 units, they are talking about doubling the production capacity for next year, and it's gonna stick around for at least a little bit, because that's the other worry. We thought like the Bolt TV was over now, and they were switching everything to old Sion, but no, they're keeping it for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, can you imagine if next year, like they ramp up to 70,000 units and they keep the price around like less than $30,000, and they just bump up to like 100 kilowatt of charging, just even though that's too low for me either, but still it's a big upgrade for both TV owners. That would kill. Everyone would buy that.
Yeah, it just seems like a very small thing to. I mean, it's been 6 years. Like the
Mhm.
Volt's been around for a while, and from the get go, people were like, "Yeah, that's a nice
Mhm.
charging speed,"
Mhm.
but really,
Mhm.
let's talk about 100 or 150.
Yeah.
So
The only other thing that I would put as a big downside and a big compromise, but that's not against all other EVs, it's especially against like the Teslas and Rivians of this world, is that $25,000, that's the MSRP that
right, you got to go
GM
through the
gives you.
dealers.
Then you have to deal with the dealers. And a lot of dealers, because of the great value that the Bolt TV is offering right now, this MSRP, they are marking up the price. There is a lot of demand for it. So you can still find some good deals on it. So it's not too big of a deal. But we cannot really fault the Bolt TV as a vehicle program and not give it the car of the year because of its value, just because some stealerships are trying to make a buck off of it.
Yeah, so just anecdotally, I bought my mom one that we talked about a little bit ago. Had kind of a bad dealer experience there.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of hoodwinked her into buying a $2,000 maintenance package, and then they did a poor job of handling the Q Merit uh,
Charging.
charging install. This time it was good. The guy did know who I was. That I talk about EVs, so it did seem like they were. I don't know if that was because of that I'm a writer, or that he was just a nice guy and didn't try to screw me over. But then I got on OnStar because you have to register OnStar when you turn on the car, and the OnStar guy was really a douchebag, and I was like, no, I just don't want it. Like I don't want it, and he just kept saying, yeah, you should get it, whatever. And I was like, look, I'm not gonna get it, and then he just hung on about me. Like
that, I think that hasn't changed for years because I kind of like sort of vaguely remember because my parents have been GM owners for the longest time. And when I sort of vaguely remember now, I was like, my dad would never take OnStar unless they gave it. Like sometimes there's a deal that they give it to you for a year, but then they cancel it. And I vaguely remember my dad like fighting. I was a small child, and my dad fighting on the phone over with the OnStar guy. I just don't want your service. Just cancel it. I got like he had it for like a year, and then after a year, you had to cancel it.
actually, it might have been the same guy. Well, he was probably a French guy, but this guy seemed old, and he just would not stop. Actually, I recorded the whole thing, so when GM inevitably is like, "What happened?" I'm sure it wasn't that bad. I can just say, "Here you go."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it was pretty bad. Normally, you're a pretty easygoing guy. All right, so yeah, I mean, congrats to GM and Chevy for the Bolt EV becoming the electric vehicle of the year. I heard that it's becoming the most prestigious award in the
Oh, for sure.
auto industry. I think everyone agrees with that.
Yep.
Hey, my the website is like super slow right now. I don't know what's happening. But yeah, we are moving on to some Tesla news. Aren't you happy? We didn't start with Tesla news today, guys. So this is a strange one here that we've been discussing for like the last 6 months now. But now we even have a date on it, and it's becoming a little bit more certain. And it's confusing a lot of people, and rightfully so. So Tesla says now that it's going to add a radar to its vehicles and going to start marketing it starting next month, mid-January. So how do we learn that? So, well, first of all, some context so people are not aware of it. Tesla, especially Elon Musk, has famously said that radar is not needed for achieving self-driving. It thought it was at first, and the first generation of Tesla's full self-driving hardware vehicles had a front-facing radar. Tesla even developed a new radar technology and a new way to read radar data in order to improve on the readings that they get and the performance of the autopilot system. Back then, there wasn't really a self-driving system yet, but Tesla was saying that all vehicles that they produce going forward have all the hardware needed to achieve self-driving. Turned out not to be true, especially with the computer, though that was already sort of expected. And Tesla upgraded the computers when needed, so it's not too bad. But then there's also some early cameras. The earlier version, like 2016, 2017, had to upgrade their cameras, so that wasn't true either. And now, and then in last year, in 2021, Tesla stopped producing vehicles with the radar altogether because they said we don't need the radar. They're going full Tesla vision, they call it. There's their own computer vision system. And the idea behind it basically is that, I mean, I'll read. This is a text message that DM that Elon sent us at Electrek last year. The probability of safety will be higher with pure vision than vision plus radar, not lower. Vision has become so good that radar actually reduces signal and noise. So the logic behind it apparently is that it's the roads or design are built for human drivers, and human drivers drive with their eyes and with their brains. So that's what we use to drive. I mean, obviously our hands, but the steering, I don't think anyone argues that you cannot replace steering with robots, with actuators and whatnot. So the idea is like the easiest way to replace that, to copy that, is going to be replacing the eyes with the closest thing is going to be cameras all around the vehicles, and then replacing the brains with, the brain is basically a biological neural net. So let's replace it by a coded neural net, actual neural nets, so running on computers. So that's what they want to replace it, and the humans don't have anything that resemble a radar, so let's not use it. So it wasn't a very well received. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but it wasn't necessarily a well received approach. Like people like fought back. They're like, "Hey, it doesn't seem smart to take away a sensor. Like you should be a way to make it work." And sure enough, at the time, Elon and that's an Electrek exclusive. I think Elon only sent that to us in the DMs back then. He said that a very high resolution radar would be better than pure vision, but such a radar does not exist. I mean, vision with high res radar would be better than pure vision. So he did admit that if there was a high resolution radar, and he was right that didn't exist, though there's been for like the last 2-3 years a lot of ongoing project right now for what they call like a 4D HD radar, and like they call it a millimeter wave radar. That is a very precise radar that would get better readings. So he seems open to it, but he was very vague, saying that it doesn't even exist yet, which wasn't exactly true, because back then we already had some indication that Tesla was testing this RB radar, it's called, another 4D imaging radar. So they already were testing some applications of it. All right, so that's the context here. Then earlier this year, we reported on an SEC filing that not SEC filing, sorry, I've been dealing so much with SEC filings the last few days. That an FCC filing that was introducing the fact that Tesla planned to add a new radar in its, because with the FCC you have to register any kind of system that sends waves, radio waves, and to register the kind of spectrum that it goes in, and then you need to register any device that deals with that. So they registered with the FCC saying that we're going to add a radar to a vehicle. But when they did back then, they put a 6 months. You can ask the FCC to put a 6-month confidential treatment on your request, so that will make like hide everything, hide all your filings. And that was coming up to Wednesday of this week. So Wednesday, the confidential treatment was going away, and we were going to see all the files and know exactly what kind of radar Tesla was talking about and all that, and even the instruction manuals and all that stuff that's in the FCC filing. But Tesla put a request in this week where they want to extend that confidential treatment, and they did. And in that request, confidential treatment, they confirmed that this device will not be marketed until mid-January 2023. So they don't want. The argument is that we are about to release it, but a month from now, so they don't want people to talk about it. But still, we still have enough information on it that it's an HD millimeter wave radar. That because I think the only arguments against it that people are like, yeah, this is not actually a big deal. This is probably a cabin-facing radar. Nothing on the filing that is not redacted because of the confidential treatment. Something fell behind me. There's nothing behind me, but I heard something falling behind me.
Maybe it's that like that red light computer thing back there.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. Got me scared for a second. But if I get murdered, it's going to be on camera at least. If there's something behind me.
I'll try to keep the podcast going.
Yeah, I'll call 911 if something happened. Yeah, so where was I? So it looks like it is like a autonomous driving radar. The goal is driver assist on that front, and it's coming up next month. So that gets a lot of people confused. Now is because there's two possibilities here. So Tesla, it would mean that Tesla would be updating its hardware, its sensor suite for autopilot and self-driving, which is not necessarily something to worry about for current Tesla owners, in terms of we already knew that Tesla would always upgrade their sensor suite, their computer, and everything. But with the fact that Tesla has yet to deliver full self-driving and it has missed a bunch of timelines on it, and many people in the industry have raised concern of Tesla's ability at all to deliver on that current hardware, it does add to the worries that Tesla might not be able to deliver on its promise with the current hardware, and that would be quite a fiasco. Like it's even hard to imagine if that is. I'm not saying it is the case, but it's adding to that worry, and it's hard to imagine what kind of scenario that would create. Like Tesla would have to, because it did the promise that Tesla made are clear. So Tesla would have to upgrade all the vehicles, but adding a radar and the 2 million cars that Tesla has produced, not 2 million, but close to 2 million has produced over the last 2 years since they removed the radar, and then it sounds like they would need also to replace the one that have a radar, but it's not as good as this one. Like there's so many, like these, with millions of cars at this point, it would be like a nightmare scenario for Tesla. I mean, some are even calling it like a company ending type of deal. I wouldn't go as far as that, but pretty close. Like it would be like a $10 billion more, like maybe like a $30 billion recall program or something like that. And then the thing that happened at the same time, or last weekend, really, that is adding to the whole situation, is that a Model 3 vehicle. You know, if you remember, there was a rumor last week that Tesla is upgrading the Model 3 next year with a little design refresh, the new front and back casting and all that. But last weekend, there was a Model 3 that was spotted in California with manufacturer plate, which would mean that Tesla owns the vehicle. And there was some camouflage on it, front and back. And one thing that there's not much, because of the camouflage, there's not much that we can detect on it. But some people suggested that, because even the headlights are heavily camouflaged, but with a thinner fabric that you can see through it a little bit, and it looks like a camera is encased into the top end of the headlight here. So it's very, that's obviously not as strong as the FCC filing, obviously, but if true, it could lead to Tesla testing right now a whole new hardware, a sensor suite for autopilot and self-driving, which would be significant. And the camera also, like there's the image, which again, I'm not completely convinced by the image, but also it would make a ton of sense to put a camera there, because Tesla has a blind spot around the bumper there. And also, it would, if you have one on each side, it would facilitate when you're making a perpendicular turn, when you have to creep forward to see if there's a car coming. That would be so much easier to use that camera than using the front-facing camera that are in the windshield right now, that are closer to a driver's view. So, yeah, this is it's adding a lot to the concerns, I think, of
I mean,
Tesla
what
delivering
would be
on
more
that.
expensive, retrofitting everybody or refunding the FSD autopilot money?
That's a good call. I've been saying for years that Tesla should offer refunds anyway on the FSD, just for the not delivering on it and the timelines
Right.
and all that, and especially for people that are like that's one of the biggest things for like the hardcore Tesla fans that are realistic about full. There's plenty of Tesla fans that still think that FSD is just around the corner and whatnot. But for those that are more realistic about the full self-driving, that have the beta and everything, and they're just not satisfied with it, and but they still love their Tesla vehicle so much that they upgrade when they feel like it, whatever. They want a new car, they want a new Model S Plaid or whatever. That's one of the things that hurts them the most, where when they had paid for FSD on their old car and then they never got FSD, they never got full self-driving, they just got some kind of FSD beta, whatever that means. And now they have to buy it again on their new car. So just for that alone, like, people should be able to transfer it or get a refund on the old one and buy it on the new one, whatever. If you still believe that Tesla can deliver it. But yeah, retrofitting like a radar in the front end. I mean, ask Jason Hughes about it. Like, he's the only person I know that actually took a Tesla, a non-autopilot Tesla, and made it autopilot with the front-facing radar and the front-facing cameras. Before Tesla had cameras all around the vehicle in 2016, and it's extremely difficult. Like, he understood after that. He was like, Tesla cannot do that. I just when like I see someone like questioning whether like $10 to $30 billion. Here's the thing: it wouldn't even happen. I think I don't think just the load that they would put on Tesla service, because it's hours and hours of work for each car, and now you're talking about, I don't know, like millions of vehicles at this point. So no, I just don't think it would happen. So again, this is if this is not just an upgrade, that Tesla is working for the next generation. And I wouldn't be that surprised if the current generation of vehicle gets screwed and they're like, nah, this is actually, we promised FSD beta, we delivered FSD beta, or whatever it is. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, Sylvain Bélanger said they also did. I didn't know that. So Sylvain Bélanger works for Simon André, is a dealership here that they deal with a lot with Teslas. So I didn't know that. That's cool. But I mean, I'm sure that Sylvain is going to agree with Jason, though. It is quite the endeavor to do. I mean, just all the wiring that you have to go through, and then you probably have to change something with the bumper, I would assume, too, because it's hidden behind the bumper. It's so much and so much pressure on Tesla service centers that I just don't see it happen.
Yeah, and I don't think all the materials that they use are radio transparent. So like you couldn't put it under the hood. You'd have to put it under the plastic parts.
Oh yeah, for sure. It would be behind the bumper, but it's great. I cannot imagine Tesla doing that.
Yeah, it seems insurmountable.
So basically, right now, to conclude, the best case scenario is that Tesla, this is just a next gen that's going to improve on full self-driving data, and Tesla still plans to convert full self-driving data into a truly full self-driving system with the current generation of hardware. But as I say that, I have a hard time believing it. So worst case scenario, Tesla actually needs this new hardware suite to achieve full self-driving. And now they are at a very strange scenario where they either fight the customer saying that, well, this is going to be it, or they actually do the right thing and reimburse everyone, or I really don't know.
No good way out.
No, there's not. But again, this is the worst case scenario. This might still happen. I don't know. All right, before we go into the next story, I just want to, we don't have a sponsor for the show this week. This is another free show. We by the way, we have some sponsor coming back in the next year and whatnot. But if you do want to sponsor the show, please reach out. We can arrange something and do something about that. But in the meantime, you have a completely ad-free experience. So if you can give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you're listening on your podcast app, leave us a 5-star reviews. Those help tremendously. They all help, really. They're all free to do. They all take a minute, and we appreciate when you do it.
And tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends about the show, too. So up next, still on self-driving, really, that I thought it was an interesting one. It's true, the inevitable class action lawsuit for full self-driving that happens. We reported on that in September. So we knew it was coming. There was just no other way that some people would try to challenge Tesla at the court regarding its claims of achieving self-driving. And Tesla last week, they filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. And there was a few interesting comments in that motion to dismiss. The most interesting one being that mere failure to realize a long-term aspirational goal is not fraud. So that's Tesla's argument for it not being in troubles for what they said about achieving self-driving, which is a very weird way to present it, in my opinion, because it describes the way that they presented people with self-driving. And I mean, we can go up with a bunch of quotes and things like that. But I mean, they have used self-driving to sell cars. There's no other way. Like Elon has been adamant that, hey, buy self-driving right now because it's going to be more expensive in the future. If you buy your car right now, your car is going to be self-driving at one point. Everything like there was a lot of things like that he said.
Appreciating asset.
Yeah, appreciating asset and all that. Like this is where we're clear, like very like actionable comments to do, and now calling it a long-term aspirational goal. Like that's like I wrote in the article, that's really the most cautious description of its goal to achieve self-driving that Tesla has ever used. Like the most cautious language ever used by an automaker. Everything prior to that was a lot more confident, really. Even though Elon is like he has a talent for like getting as close as saying a thing is like a done deal, but not saying it. Like he has a talent for that, like a talent that. Like someone like Theranos, the Theranos girl should have.
Right. Well, she, I guess, stepped over the line, but
yeah. I mean, you did send me a quote from like the SEC when the SEC charged her, and if you read the quote like right on, like you can tell like that that could apply very much to this situation. Other than the fact that I'm not an expert in the whole Theranos situation, but my understanding is that they never really had a clear path to achieving what they said they were aiming for, and then they were literally like using like regular labs to do the things that they said that only their little box machine would do that they never achieve. in terms of Tesla achieving self-driving, I think there is a clear path to achieving self-driving, and it's just in the form that Tesla wants it to be. It's harder. Well, I guess it's similar to the thing is they wanted the form to be in a little box thing that you can have at home.
I mean,
Similar.
it's hard to say that there's a clear path until you get there, because
well,
you know,
there's a clear path to self-driving itself. I mean, like the Waymo and the Cruise. If you do it that way, if you do it like a geofence, like mapping way, there's clearly a way to do it. Like it's just Tesla with the generalized self-driving. That's I mean, it's like achieving AI and general artificial intelligence. Like those are like two different things. Yeah. But yeah, so Tesla said that, but then the other argument that they use is that they never stated like a clear timeline to make it happen, which is also like an argument that it's tough to make. Technically, like in writing, they never did. The Tesla has been good about that. In writing, there's no right. You won't find any writing that Tesla says we're going to deliver. Like,
but their CEO is on video, like 1,000 times, giving time frames.
In the article, I put a 3-minute video of Elon just saying like, "Oh, next year it's coming. Next year, like by the end of the year, like all that." So
robo taxis, next year.
But even then, like if you actually listen to the video, even then, the way he phrased things is always a little bit like if you're really paying attention. But most people they don't read it like that. So it's hard to say that it's not deceiving. It's real like it's going to be an interesting lawsuit for sure. If it doesn't get dismissed, I would assume that it doesn't get dismissed, honestly. And it wouldn't be the first time that Tesla has to face a class action and for wrongdoing, like they did with the battery thing and the supercharger throttling and all that, and they ended up settling for that. So it's not like Tesla is completely immune to those things. Like they faced they faced the fire before. All right, moving on from FSD, a few more Tesla news and then a few more non-Tesla news, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. So if you guys have any questions for us, any comments, put them in the comment section right now. We are live, and we're going to take those comments and question lives in just 10, 15 minutes. All right. Tesla has a new, I was going to skip one more. Tesla has a new champion of people. Okay. It's a new head of HR, really. So, like Tesla like to have those little silly names for their C-suite executive. I mean, to be honest, the C-suite names are also kind of silly, like chief officer, chief executive officer, chief financial officer. Like just chief in itself is kind of a silly name for a position. But Tesla has changed things up with Elon being now techno king of Tesla, and Zachary Kirkhorn, which unofficially CFO, officially master of coin. I think that's a Game of Thrones reference, if I'm not mistaken. And now the HR position, the top HR position, is back to being a C-suite position because it wasn't for the last year. The top HR position at Tesla hasn't been an easy role. Like in between 2018 and 2019, there was like 3 different head of HR, and then Valerie Capers Workman took over, and she had a little bit more prominent role. Like she especially within like the COVID thing and a lot of the racial lawsuit against Tesla and whatnot. She was like the face for that, but she left early this year in January, and since then they haven't been like an official top position. I assume Tesla just had someone, one of the VPs, take over, and now Tesla is hiring Chris Winton for the position. So Chris Winton is coming up of a 35-year career at FedEx. Is it 35? I think that might be a typo for some reason. Like 25. And I thought
that doesn't sound like somebody Tesla would hire.
In my head, it was 25. Yeah, 25. This is a typo. I'm gonna have to fix that. This is a 25-year career at FedEx, where he rose to the ranks, and most recently was chief people officer. He was made chief people officer in March, but he didn't stay long in that role because now he's been hired at Tesla to be the champion of people, which is of the people. Again, is chief people officer, head of HR, whatever you want to call it.
HR,
yeah. It's kind of a deceiving name too, that champion of the people, because let's be honest, like the head of HR and HR in general, they work for the company. They don't work for the
Yep.
worker. It's not a union. Like, it's not the head of your union or something like that.
Nope.
They work for the company, and yes, sometimes they can be useful in terms
Kind of
of
like a liaison, but
yeah.
not advocate and not a champion.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that guy reports to Elon. He doesn't report to some kind of
And
conglomerate
Elon
of
pays his
Tesla
checks.
employees. Yeah. But yeah, he's moving from Memphis to Austin, taking over. So we hope the best for him. This is a hard role, has been over the years. Another someone who's moving to Austin. It's Mr. Tom Zhu. You might know Tom Zhu as the president of Tesla in China. And also, I think he took over earlier this year, like all Asia Pacific operation from Tesla. And most famously, he was the one responsible for Gigafactory Shanghai, which is by far Tesla's most successful manufacturing project to date. Biggest electric vehicle factory in the world, 1 million vehicle capacity right now. It's just an incredible project. And now we learned that he's been moved to work at Gigafactory Texas. So he's taking over the responsibility of Gigafactory Texas. And we just reported a few weeks ago that Tesla had yet to find a leader for Gigafactory Texas. So that confirms it now, instead of they had an open position. But actually, I didn't check if they closed that position. It's maybe worth checking. But now they moved Tom Zhu. And it's weird because this week there was a rumor also that Tom Zhu was taking over Elon's position soon as global CEO. But we put a big grain of salt on that report, though, because it was coming out of a publication called Ping West, which is a legit publication. Like, I looked into it. Like, it's a legit publication with a lot of employees and a big presence in China. And then they also have like an English version for like China news for the Western world. And so it came out of that. But again, looks somewhat legit publication. But at the same time, the weird thing is that their claim to fame when it comes to Tesla is that they reported a year ago that Tesla they called Gigafactory Shanghai like a modern sweatshop, and based on a few sources there, they described like a lot of wrongdoing at Tesla Gigafactory Shanghai, things like using defective part knowingly and things like that. And Tesla sued them in court in Shanghai over that report, and they won just last week. Tesla won that case. Sorry, just to be clear, Tesla won that case where Ping West had to issue an apology, and he had to pay Tesla like the equivalent of like $14,000 or something like that. So, and then like this, Elon stepping down as CEO of Tesla would be the biggest Tesla news of the year, basically, the biggest scoop of the year to get. Yeah, of the decade, maybe. And within a week of being found guilty by a Chinese court, like I'm not saying that they did anything wrong. I'm not saying that, but because you've been found guilty in court in China doesn't mean necessarily that of saying something of a company that's close to the Chinese Communist Party. Like, it's not that like let's take things into perspective and everything here. But so I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but at the same time, it is weird that within a week they get like the biggest scoop ever about that. So I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're not. Elon has talked about stepping down as CEO in the future. Pierre Farragut, like he's a big Tesla analyst for New Street Research, I think. He came out with a note this week where he said that he could definitely see a scenario where Elon still remains officially CEO, but Zhu takes over like operational roles other than products, maybe a bit like what Jérôme Guillen was for a while, like president of Tesla Auto, basically, before stepping back into Tesla Semi and then leaving. So, Zhu is pronounced like Jew, like Zhu.
Maybe one day he'll be the CEO, and that story will be correct.
And I will definitely learn how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry about that. Like, the guy would be like, he was never really mentioned as a potential replacement. Like, there's a lot of other people that came up. We discussed it, I think, 2 weeks ago. He didn't come up, and we really see him come up. But he would make a lot of sense, I think, especially after his success in China and with Gigafactory Shanghai. All right, moving on from Tesla news. Ford this week announced this Model E, which is the reason why Tesla couldn't call the Model 3 the Model E. Ford wanted to retain that trademark. They never ended up using it for a car. They use it for what they call their EV dealership network. It's called, they want dealership to become Model E dealership, which means that they can sell electric vehicles. So they put that program together, and this week they announced basically the take rate within the dealership, because they have to make large investments to be in that in terms of training and also a charging station that they need to put in. So they revealed this week that basically 2/3 of their US dealerships have gone on board with the Model E program to sell EVs, which means that 1/3 of the dealership will not sell EVs until at least 2027, which is when they're going to do another round of it. So that's 5 years without selling electric cars for a third, almost 1,000 for dealership in the US. But that means that almost 1,920 will, and also it gives Ford basically one of the largest DC fast charging network in the US, because all of those will have not one, but most of them will have two. I think I broke it down somewhere. Yeah. So 1,659 will have 2 DC fast charging station, and the rest will have 1. So it adds up to 3,500 fast charger that's going to be added in the US to that program. So this is a significant deal, although with a lot of caveats, because first off, again, it's 1 and 2 chargers per station. So like if it's in use, you're screwed. It's not like most of like electric, even like the smallest Electrek Car station and the EVgo have like 4 normally connectors. Tesla has normally like 8 plus. So that's a concern. Also, the location of it is not ideal. Like some dealership are located like you can probably grab something to heat somewhere around it and everything, but a lot of them are like in places called like dealership rows, basically, where it's just all dealership for like a mile. So those ones are going to be a little bit less useful. And also, they haven't confirmed the charging capacity of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go with like the cheapest one, like the 100 kilowatts and below. But something to confirm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I doubt they'll go over 150 because their vehicles don't go too much over 150.
You kind of want to be future-proof, though. I would assume that the next generation, like they already talked that thing about the next generation of the F-150 Lightning being over 150.
Yeah.
This I'll mention it because it's a project that we've been following for a long time now, and they need your help if you want. I wouldn't advise anyone to do it.
I'd say charity, maybe.
Yeah, maybe not charity, but Sono Motors and the Sion, which is their electric solar car. It's a project that's been going for a long time, and it's been mostly crowdfunded with tens of millions of dollars. And they had several prototype builds, and then they are getting closer to production intent. But now they announced that the project it's at the verge of dying. And if they don't get a big influx of capital and confirmation from their user base, their fan base, that they will buy this car, they are just gonna kill the project. So the idea behind it is this Sion here that we're talking about, is that they are launching the Save Sion campaign, where current reservation holders, which they have plenty of, I think they have like 43,000 reservation holders, and new ones, if you want to place a reservation. Now there's, instead of just being a normal deposit that you place in, you confirm your order, and there's a sort of a slider in terms of the deposit, where the more you deposit, the more you're going to get a discount on the vehicle. So it's basically a way to get more money out of the reservation holders. But they are being very honest about it, where they need it. Like if they don't get it, they're trying to get... they're basically trying to get out of the 43,000 people that they have out there, is they want 3,500 of them to pay fully for the car. Again, that's not necessarily like the 35 100 people will pay fully. It might be like the 43,000 people pay 10% more, whatever. That will also do it, if my math is right. So, or 10% of the value of the vehicle, is what I'm saying. So this is their effort. Those Sono Motors would not be dead if the program dies, because as we reported last year, we did go check them out in Munich,
Yep.
at those little facility that they have, and we did drive that. Did we drive it, or we test rode it?
We rode in it. The
Yeah.
actual CEO.
No, I
think,
did drive it, I think.
Did
No?
you?
Yeah, I feel like I drove it. Anyway, it was a piece of that we drove. The prototype was not great at all, but it was just a prototype at that point.
And we were saying at the time, like, why are they building their own car? Like, their technology is the solar and the integration into the car. What they should have done is got like a Chevy Bolt. They're cheap, and just put solar panels all over it and their technology inside it.
Well, that's what they're doing right now, but not necessarily with consumer vehicles, but with trucks and trailers and things like that, which makes a ton of sense. So they're being more of a business to business, supplying their solar technology that can charge a battery pack as the vehicle moves, which is more difficult than you would actually think, because they're trying to optimize the solar power on a moving vehicle with moving shades and all that. So it's they sort of spend a lot of time developing that technology, less so the rest of the vehicle, to a degree, even though they have good plans. They have a fully good feature plans for the vehicle. It's just the one we tested was not there. We weren't really impressed by it, but we were impressed by the solar technology on it. So, and they already had that business to business going, and it is profitable apparently. So right now they're thinking of just dropping the Sion and focusing just on that, unless they do get like the strong commitment from the user base and also the money that comes with it. They will move to build a production line. But right now they figure that even with the profitable business to business solar business, the Sion, if they use that to finance a Sion, the whole company will go under, which I truly believe. Like, I don't think that's a ploy to get more money out of the customer. I know, like, it takes $1 billion normally to do a car project like that. Now I know that they have great partner and Siemens and a few other like European manufacturers that are helping them with the Sion, so it wouldn't be as much of a financial burden. Not exactly like a Magna situation, but like similar to that, where the other companies are helping them build it, so it's not that big of a commitment. But still, it's a project that is cool, and if you want to help save it, you can. I'm not recommending it or that, because you could lose your money, like, just to be clear. All right, let's move on to the comment section.
All right, moving in. All right, I'd start the first couple. Farfolomew says, comment, after owning a Bolt for 6 months and driven 10,000 miles, my dream car would be this with a range extender or an EV battery pack of 700 to 1,000 miles. Come on, dude.
No, I so disagree with that. Like at 700 to 1,000 miles. I mean, I disagree, but I don't for the Bolt, because if there was a decent charge rate on it, like a 700 miles for a car that has a decent charge rate makes no sense, because you're not going to just drive very rarely going to want to drive 700 miles in just one shot. You're going to stop for a few minutes and charge and do something else, like go to the bathroom, eat or something, and charge your car. Unless you're like some kind of hardcore, like, what was it? The astronaut woman that drove her car from Texas to Florida to kill her husband or something like that.
She wore a diaper.
Yeah, she wore a diaper. Like, that's what I imagine when I said people like, oh, I drive 1,000 miles in one go. But in this case, he's kind of right though, because with the Bolt TV, stopping to charge is a hassle, because you're gonna have to charge for a few hours. But I don't think that's a solution for the Bolt. Don't give it 1,000-mile pack. Give it decent charging
Faster
capacity.
charging, exactly. Yeah. All right, moving on. Carl in San Diego, I'm glad to see you reward Chevy for the Bolt. Only problem is GM admitted they still lose money on all their EVs, so this is loss leader pricing that others are not willing to try to pull off. I feel like they kind of pulled back on the losing money thing.
No, I think that might be accurate.
So 2025 or something?
Yeah, I think that might be accurate. It's just that, I mean, for the consumer, that doesn't change much of anything, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do that more for the consumer. side of things.
Right.
Like this is the car to like. A lot of people ask me like what EVs to buy right now. Like normally I'm always like I drive a Model 3, I love the Model Y and everything, so I like buy that. But for now I'm like for the value, like you should probably get a Bolt. Really,
You want to hear something controversial?
go
I
ahead.
like
Of course.
driving the Bolt more than like driving the Model Y. I like driving the Model 3 more than the Bolt. But the
Yeah,
Model Y just doesn't drive
but
well.
you've never been an SUV guy either,
No.
right? No, that's
No,
the
but the
thing.
Bolt is kind of an SUV. Whatever. That's just
Yeah.
my,
Yeah, the standing position is kind of SUV like, but you're still low to the ground somewhat.
Yeah, and
Right?
the car has a very low center of gravity because of the battery,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
drives like that.
No, I mean
All right.
the first time I drove was it the first time? One of the first time I drove the Bolt TV was at an autocross event, and
I
it was
remember
a
that. Yeah.
blast to autocross that car. It's a fun car to autocross.
Yeah, I know. It can be a ton of fun. I've been having fun in the 24 hours since I've
Yeah,
had this new one.
yeah.
I'm
What
excited to
color is it?
have it.
No, that
I
was the
got,
one that you posted, I guess. You didn't
yeah,
show
it's
me
the
the
white
car
one.
then. So it's the
It's
one
the
that
storm
is the in
the
the post.
in the post. Yeah, the
Okay,
stormtrooper color.
okay.
By the way, that guy who wanted a 1,000-mile range Bolt is at a charger charging right now, so that's a bit amusing. All right. Question: did Chevy solve the battery fire problems with the Chevy Bolt? I think they did. It
You
did
say
take
they
them a
did.
couple. That did take them a couple tries, but we haven't heard of any fires in the year since. I do plan on parking mine in the garage, so hopefully that is a solve. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a 6-year-old car with 6-year-old technology, so we know a lot about this car now. It's not like the new one rolling off the line. All right,
Yeah,
moving forward.
I was
Oh yeah,
thinking about that where when you were like adamant about the Chevy Bolt TV should be the car of the year, it would kind of surprise a lot of people because unless people know about your affection for the Bolt TV, but if you actually just look at the coverage on the Electrek of the Bolt
I
TV for
know.
the last year, it's just us like telling GM you need to recall that car, you need to recall
Right,
that car. We've been
and they
leading
did
coverage.
eventually.
Yeah, they
I mean,
eventually did.
they need to do something.
After we and a few other media put a ton of pressure on them though, and consumers too. But I mean,
Yeah,
we at Electrek we literally hired a guy to just report on the
Sean
Chevy
Graham.
Bolt
Yeah,
TV fire for like a
yeah.
year until that
He should have
happened.
got a Pulitzer for that.
Yeah,
He basically like forced their hand and
yeah.
finally got them to do what
He
they were supposed to do.
basically got $1 billion recall program for owners.
Yeah, and then when it was over, he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to write anymore. I'm good."
Yeah, that was it.
And I think he actually traded in his Bolt, so maybe it was, that was part of
Yeah.
it. All right, LG Chem did a long investigation, blamed their manufacturing equipment,
Mm,
stating that things got out of spec and created problem cells.
mm,
Yeah, and there was like
yeah.
2 separate problems that, when
Mm,
combined, caused the fire.
mm.
Um,
And the
so
concern with the Jaguar I-Pace too, I reported last month that they used the same cell, and there was a bunch of fires. And then just this week too, there was a whole truck trailer full of I-Pace that caught on fire, but it wasn't clear if the fire came from the truck or from the high.
yeah, and
Sorry.
and Hyundai actually used the same cells, and they had a
Mm.
more quiet recall. And
Yeah,
LG
but
kind of,
that's on Hyundai. Hyundai just did the right thing. They were like, all right, we don't want to mess with that, and they recalled them. And
yeah, and I think they had a bigger, thing to swat at LG,
yeah.
because LG, got right on it.
But LG, Hyundai, both Korean, like they probably
Right.
like they know who to talk to, and like they maybe got LG to do the right thing sooner, and maybe GM had some issues fighting them.
Yeah. All right, Carl in San Diego, think Edmunds is a good place to see actual efficiency rating. Bolt does well. Mini crushed it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of low range EVs that are more efficient. You put a smaller battery pack in it, it's going to be more efficient. But low range EVs are technically there's place for them in the market. It's just we don't focus on them as much because they are not as good as replacing gasoline vehicles on the market.
Yep.
It's too big of a compromise for a lot of people to make, unfortunately.
All right. Farfolo again. The two biggest Bolt deficiencies are slow, fast charge times, which we talked about. It averages 40 kilowatt hour charge rate. I've seen 54 kilowatt pretty consistency at the Electrify Americas that are 150 or 350. So I think it depends on the charger. Also, lack of standard Super Cruise is frustrating, and I agree there. I would love to get Super Cruise on the smaller Bolt EV. The car is steering correct, but not hands-free. So it has like this lane thing where if you go out of the lane, it kind of pushes you back in. And people have like messed around with that and got it to actually do like lane keep. But and then of course you can use like the Comma AI thing in the Bolt.
Oh,
Separate
they adapted to the Bolt.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. I'd do that. Come on, is pretty cool. The product is pretty cool.
I might do that, but my that port is used by my utility to give me cheap electricity. All right. Unfortunately, EPA numbers suck because those are untested, self-proclaimed efficiency numbers. Tesla overestimates their efficiency greatly on many cars, and Porsche and Mini massively underestimate. I think that's kind of like the going theory. Carl and San Diego, Bolt's a decent looking car. It's no EV6, but it's passable. So we have an EV6 lover. I don't know. I like the EV6, except the back is kind of weird to me.
No, I like it.
Yeah. All right, Green Gold. The Chevy Bolt is the perfect everyday commuter car. It's very affordable, and you don't need more than 50 kilowatt charging for everyday back and forth to work car. That's kind of what I use it for, and I agree. Question: can the Bolt hold a 54 kilowatt charging rate for a significant percent? Yeah, it can probably get about 10 to 55% there. So that's what, 30 kilowatt hours. GM admitted they are not profiting on EVs until 2025. We talked about that earlier. They'll have to bump price to 7,500 as soon as the Fed rebate kicks back in. That is interesting.
We expect that. Yeah.
But that could happen. That could happen any week now. Really, they could announce a price increase when they announce like how much the Fed's going to come back. All right, Dan, negative. I'm charging it right now. So he's talking about he's at the charging station as I watch this stream. Started at 48 kilowatts at 15% state of charge. Now I'm at 43 kilowatts, sitting at 45% after 50% state of charge. It drops well into the 30s and 20s. So again, that's probably dependent on the charger. It's a 2022 Bolt, and the charger is newly installed one rated at 62 kilowatts. That's weird. I've never heard 62 kilowatts. So it's not the charger bottlenecking it. Tesla news comes second. Oh my gosh, I know. It's crazy.
But the charger is rated at 62, but like being rated and that what they actually output sometimes is different, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sometimes the amps and the volts. It's weird. What's the status of every Tesla owner who paid for FSD in years past, and now Tesla is changing the system? There's years of EVs now. I think we kind of discussed that, but I guess it bears repeating. Like, that's a lot of cars.
Yeah, I mean, I've never did the math, but it's, I mean, technically it would only be, I guess, the cars of the people that bought FSD. But at the same time, a lot of people bought the car thinking, I'm not buying FSD now, but I'm going to buy it in the future when I think it's worth it. And like, so it's such a weird situation. It's so hard to see.
Yeah, that's actually the issue we got in trouble with Elon over is, you know, they were charging people for a hardware upgrade that for a car that was supposed to have all the hardware that do FSD. All right. The way that Tesla's handled AP1 and non-upgraded hardware to 2.5 makes me nervous for people after hardware 4 is released. I think that's probably a pretty accurate.
Yeah, I just cannot see them actually retrofitting to hardware 4. I would be shocked, especially if it involves a radar and those cameras,
and probably an upgraded computer. I mean, those things they get upgraded too.
I mean, the upgraded computer looks easier to me. Though it is expensive as hell. It's easier to do. Like the biggest, like we're talking about the value, the 10 to 30 billion dollar. Like a lot of that value would be purely in hours spent, labor hours at the service center. Like how much does Tesla charge for a service center hour these days? Like $200, something like that. Like
I don't know. It might depend on what they're doing.
Yeah, I think like the regular one is like $200. So, I mean, let's ask Sylvain. If Sylvain is still in the chat right now, like how many hours of labor hours do you think it's going to cost to retrofit a radar into the front end of uh, of a Tesla vehicle? Like, and that's just the radar. If they have to change the cameras too, it would be ridiculous. Like, I don't think the Tesla service network can support that.
Yeah. Elon already said that the newer ones would be better and older ones would be as good as possible, but seemed comfortable with these different tiers of performance. So, like, he's saying that the older cars wouldn't be able to self-drive as good as the newer ones. I don't think that's realistic, but maybe.
I mean, yes, I understand that like this, but again, he said that, but he was wrong about what they would need to achieve self-driving several times in the past. So, the how much weight do you put on what he says if he was already wrong before? So that's my point here. I'm not saying that I know more than him. I'm saying that I'm analyzing the whole situation, and that's how I see it.
All right.
Sylvain says an hour for the radar alone. So to have a radar in a car that doesn't have radar would only take an hour. That surprises me. I mean, I'll defer to Sylvain here. He knows more than me about that, but that would be surprising to me.
All right. Charging.
Keep giving us update on the charging.
Yeah. At first, to add AP, we needed the bumper sensors, front-facing camera, new ABS modules, bunch of wires, and a full reprogram of the car.
Yeah, okay, all of that together like sounds like more than an hour. Maybe it's just Sylvain. Like you would need 10,000 Sylvain. You can make it happen. They left the harness there. Is that what he's saying? He's saying that they left. If the harness is already there, then that would be odd. But that's weird though. If Tesla left the harness there but removed the radar. So Tesla knew this was going to happen. They knew they removed the radar, and then they knew they were going to put it back.
Well, maybe it was
Sylvain, reach out to me because if that's true, like I want to know more about that.
Story. Yeah, and well, the thing is though, like they might have just been like, like when you remove a kidney or when you get a kidney transplant, they leave the old kidney in there. It might have been one of those things where they're just like, why stop making this thing?
Yeah,
and get recertified or whatever.
Yeah, there might be other reasons to leave the harness. You're right.
All right, let me see if I can find where we were. Rented a Tesla back in April, drove it in Hawaii. Even the autopilot was full of annoying driver interruptions. It was way overcautious. Tesla, please improve autopilot and leave the sitting driving to humans. Well, theoretically, we'll get to.
Yeah, I generally like autopilot on the highway. I think it performs very well.
Andrew McDonald says Tesla would not need to change all vehicles, only vehicles that paid for FSD.
Yeah, well, we just discussed that. Like technically, maybe, but they have a case. Those that didn't pay for it, but thought they would want it in the future, they have a case to get it too. Because then what happened if they pay for FSD right now? They pay for FSD and Tesla like spends $1,000+ to retrofit them too. I don't know.
All right, is that 28 kilowatts at that point? Love these charging updates. That is helpful to know. 43-minute charge times are rough. I have to say, I've been at 50% and 50 kilowatts on a Bolt. So I don't know. Take grain of salt. This was at a Electrify America in Yonkers, New York. All right, moving on. All right, we're still talking about the charger. Joe Kechanis, there's a clear path, but humans can do it. That means it's possible. So that's talking about, is there a clear path to self-driving? I guess that's true. Like we know it can be done. It's kind of like we see birds flying, so we know that we can fly. Right? So that's true, I guess. You need an NX Gen module in your Y step.
Yeah, I didn't know that Sylvain works for Nginx too. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but it's the other company. Yeah, it's another company based in Trois-Rivières that they do the modules that unlock some powers and like the things that Tesla unlocks. You have to pay for it, but they do it too. But they do a few other things on top of it too.
Unfortunately, I already got everything on my Model Y, so and the Model 3. Actually, the Model 3 would be fun to play with.
Well, you don't like they can take like a dual motor Model Y and basically make it into a performance almost like
Oh,
close to it. Like they can do things like that.
yeah. Sylvian, give me a call. All right. Hyundai's recall was publicized as the most expensive in automotive history. Okay, so I guess it wasn't.
No, I think Bolt beat that after
Yeah,
that. Like Hyundai was just first to do it, and it was,
right.
the Bolt TV was a bigger one.
But as a second car, they are perfect for low range cars. We were probably talking about the Bolt at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
Ping pong lane keep. Yeah, that's a little bit like that. Hyundai estimate. Hyundai recall was estimated at 900 million. I'm sure the Bolt is over $1 billion. Shout out to Mikey G and the Electrek Daily YouTubes. Yep. Thanks, Mikey, for joining us here.
It's a separate YouTube channel called Electrek Daily if you want to check it out.
Yeah, go subscribe. If Tesla removes the ability to buy FSD on currently owned Hardware 3 cars, then and only then you'll know that they can't run an FSD on Hardware 3. That would be a bad sign if that.
Yeah, that's a good point from Dan there. Something to look out for. Again, we're just introducing the scenario that might happen. That maybe everything goes well and it's just a regular upgrade to the new hardware. But I mean, there's certainly room for concern with the missed deadlines and the current performance of FSD beta.
Yeah, so the Bolt autocorrect is most definitely a ping pong lane keep. It can't be used at all practically for any sort of hands-off driving experience. Super Cruise on an EUV is that, and I think by that he means it's an actual autopilot. All right, that's a fact. Harness is still there.
Yeah, but Sylvain had it that they know that based on the cars that they've seen, like the most recent ones, but he doesn't know like maybe they eventually like the most recent cars, literally like this year, maybe they remove the harness. We don't know.
Armageddon says we need the EV for poor people.
Poor people shouldn't be buying new cars, though.
Yeah, used cars. So like, get a Fiat 500e.
Yeah. Or even Bolt TVs, I would assume that used ones are not going for too much these days. And used car price in general have been going down the last 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
So I would assume that you can get a Bolt TV for less than $20,000 used.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe closer to 15 even.
Yep. And then all those compliancy cars, you can get even for less.
Yeah.
Maybe even an older kind of dinged up Tesla. Because we have seen a bunch of cars without radar and the harness is still there. Okay, so we're talking about that still. Mikey G says, hey, Nanda Holtz, thanks for joining in. Sylvian Boulanger says, we need the Honda E over here. That's true. We do need the Honda E. And then finally, we have Carl in San Diego. Thanks for a good show and appreciate your willingness to talk fairly about Tesla. Too many channels fail to do that.
Yeah, appreciate that too.
You're welcome.
And Arma comes up, purposely only buy old stuff. That's all I'm saying. Like, and when I say poor people, well, you said poor people. I didn't say poor people, but I don't even mean like actual like poor people. Like a lot of people are buying new cars, even though they make like a decent living and everything, that probably are not an official place to buy a new car. Like you see those ads about like the financing and things. Like they try to get you with the financing. Like, oh, it's gonna not cost you anything. Like a new car is technically, like you ask any kind of good financial planner, they'll tell you it's for like, well, I don't want to tell it on top of my head. I don't know exactly, but a certain part of the population in terms of their income that they can get. So yeah, I mean, most people they buy. I think it's 20 or 30% of car buyers buy new cars, and then the rest it's transaction. In car transaction, overall car transaction, I think it's like 30% of car transaction are new cars. The rest it's all used car. So obviously, most people buy used cars. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same way for houses and even things like phones. Like it's just smarter. When I was a student, I didn't buy new things. I had,
Yeah. I didn't buy a new car until my second Tesla. My first Tesla was a used car. My first new car was a Tesla Model 3. That was in 2018. So yeah, before that I was poor and I was buying used cars.
I know. Mine was a Prius, my first new car.
First new car players. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. If you're still watching an hour, 13 minutes into it, and like a good 30 minutes of comments and a lot of great interaction today. Appreciate everyone that was here. Arma, Sylvain, Carl in San Diego. Forget the name of the guy that was charging. He had a strange name, I think. On the
Farfolo Mew. And he also tipped us.
Yeah, appreciate that.
$13.78. We're getting beer.
Yeah, we'll each get a beer tonight on you. Thank you very much. And we're going to see you same place, same time next week.